All right, let's go, because you know what I came in to do.
I don't get paid for overtime. I'm here to fight.
You know, we're waiting for this fight to be locked in, and when it does get locked in, we're going to earn the respect that we deserve.
Now there is, I understand, the possibility of August 23 for that world title defence. What would it mean to Jai Opetaia to have that first world title defence on Australian soil?
You know, that's obviously the goal. If we can make that happen, that would be our first pick. But man, negotiations have gone on long enough. You know, we're just ready to lock this fight in and show these pommy dudes, man. You know, they've been stuffing us around, and I feel like we got to go and we got to show these boys what we're made of. And I feel like Tasman fighters, well, we are progressing, and that's why we got the zone now. You know, we're world-class fighters supported by a world-class streaming platform now. So, you know, the doors are opening, and it's exciting times.
Right, you said they're getting around basically by these pommy bastards. We got to show them what's what. That's basically what he's saying. Well, that's me paraphrasing it in North London style. So basically, they're saying these pommy bastards are dicking us around. We're waiting to get the fight on. So what's happening with Ben and Sky and Boxer? What are they doing? Is Richard ready? Because from what he's saying there, the fight is going to happen in Australia, and it's going to be on DAZN, not Sky. So that's probably not sitting well with Sky. But Jai does have the belt, and they've got the leverage. It's not a very great commute for boxers normally going over to Australia. Ask Manny Pacquiao, ask Victor Calais, and a few of them guys who went over to Australia to fight Jeff Fenech back in the day. Me, myself, I didn't even realize that Opetaia had a deal with DAZN, but the deal was done 3 days ago by Tasman Fighters, which is a promotional outlet which Jai is signed to. They've done their own deal with DAZN, not with Eddie Hearn, not with Matchroom, not with Oscar, not with Golden Boy, but they've got their own deal on DAZN. And it's no shock because, like, Australia has been pushing hard with boxing in the last few years. We've seen a resurgence of Australian boxing, and they're very into their boxing, especially their homegrown talent. So it's no surprise they cut their own deal. When Ben was pushing for this fight for Richard RIAKPORHE, they didn't have no DAZN deal. So Ben and Sky were thinking, okay, we'll get Richard the shot. Maybe they were going to concede that he has to travel to Australia, but at least they're going to get it on their broadcast for content. But now, nope. You want that fight, you travel to Australia, and it's going to be on DAZN. And what leverage does Ben really have? Jai's got the belt. Now, they said they were going to make Richard RIAKPORHE the face of boxing. But then again, that did change when Lawrence went over there. But they did say initially he was going to be the face of Sky Sports Boxing. And Richard RIAKPORHE needs to stand his square. If they really meant it, well, here's the time for them to show and prove. And the only thing I would say to Richard from here is...
Now the question I ask you is how bad you want to know. Black!
Richard shouldn't let all the smiles and me and anyone is cool. Don't let that get in the way. Don't let that get in the way. Richard was with Boxer before the kid from Bournemouth, Billiam Smith. He was on there before. And he beat Billiam Smith. But yet, you gave Billiam Smith a world title shot against a Coley before RIAKPORHE. Now what are you going to do for Richard now? Because look, basically, if they want to keep that fight on Sky, they're going to have to come out of pocket for a fight that, in all truth, it's a cruiserweight fight. The money they'd have to come out of pocket will be disproportionate to what that fight's real value is. Let's keep it real. And look, like, if they don't make this fight, if they don't let Richard travel, that's if Richard does want to travel. If they don't let Richard travel and fight on DAZN to get the belt, and then, you know, you got a world champion. You got to take some kind of gamble, calculated risk. If they don't do that, well, Opetaia, being on DAZN, is going to end up fighting Matchroom fighters. He's going to end up fighting the likes of Jordan Thompson or Andrew Tabiti. They're both ranked, and I know Tabiti is associated to Matchroom through Joshua. He's fought on Matchroom cards. Ben needs to understand that he doesn't have the leverage yet with the roster he has to draw fighters from opposing fighters from their promotional ties. You've got to take some risks. The bottom line is Richard is a good fighter. Let's not get that twisted. He's a good fighter. He's undefeated. He's got power. But Jai Opetaia is a very talented fighter, right? You can pay over the odds to get it on Sky, but there's still no guarantee that Richard RIAKPORHE wins that fight. From the outside looking in, let him go over to Australia and let's see what you can do. If he wins, you can make unifications with Billiam Smith, all in-house, all on Sky, all on Boxer. Coley's there. You'll definitely get the likes of Gulamarian to go over there. If Jai Opetaia wants a rematch, he'll have to go over there. And if any of the Matchroom cruiserweights want to title fight, they'll have to go over to Boxer. But right now, you don't have the leverage. Opetaia has the belt. It's as simple as that. You know, Tasman right now, they consider themselves players. They have a champion and they're on the zone. And if they're trying to tie Richard into a rematch clause, I can see why Ben wouldn't want to sign that. But what leverage do they have? I don't know what they do. I don't know what they do.
Kind of saying it's Francis and Ngannou. I'm fascinated by that fight anyway, and I think if that is the game changer, it does create a crossover with MMA fans and boxing fans like Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather did. Then I think that's fine right now in the interim situation. But we all want to see Tyson fight Alexander Usyk for the undisputed title.
Listen, we just want to see Tyson Fury back in the ring. You know, he's the #1 heavyweight in the world right now, and he brings a huge audience. Whether that's Francis Ngannou, Alexander Usyk, we just want to see him back.
I mean, the sucking up to Frank Warren, it's really pathetic at this stage. And you're not reflecting what the regular sports person wants to see and their opinion on current events. You're just not reflecting on that. And you're on dangerous territory now, really, for credibility. TALKSPORT has been around for a long time. And its success has been based on reflecting on what the regular sports viewer talks about. When you're saying this is a great fight between Tyson Fury and Ngannou, show me a pocket of activity that is saying the same thing. Most boxing fans are frustrated with Tyson Fury for taking this fight, frustrated that, in their opinion, and in my opinion, he sabotaged the Usyk fight for undisputed. There's Frank Warren. Why are you chastising Anthony Joshua when people want to see Fury fight Usyk? All that energy you're wasting on trying to fight Joshua, waste it on making the fight with Usyk. And you know, like, from a personal opinion, what I just heard there was a gag fest, man. Spencer in particular sounded really pathetic on this one.
Frank, you know when Larry Holmes, when you were around working in the 80s, do you recall the situation when Larry Holmes didn't fight everyone, and then in the late 80s Don King created this series which Mike Tyson came out in the end as #1 in the world? That was a similar time for a little bit in the heavyweight division.
You see, the casuals won't know how to question that. Larry Holmes fought an eliminator for the WBC title against Ernie Shavers. He also defended the belt against Ernie Shavers. It was 1978 when Muhammad Ali fought Leon Spinks. He lost his WBC and WBA belt to Spinks. Big upset. Undisputed heavyweight title. Spinks, rather than defending the WBC title against Ken Norton, he gave it up. He lost the rematch to Ali. Ali retired as the third man to win the heavyweight title 3 times. The WBA title that Ali vacated was won by John Tate in South Africa. He lost it in his first defense. Mike Weaver had the belt. He had it for a couple of defenses. Then he lost it to Dokes in the first round. Dokes, majority draw in the rematch with Weaver. Then lost it to Courtzia. Courtzia lost it in the first defense against Page. Tony Tubbs lost it in the first defense after beating Page. Tim Witherspoon lost it in the first defense after beating Tubbs. So between 1978 and 1986, when the tournament started, nobody could hold the WBA title long enough to make a fight with Larry Holmes. Holmes had already beat Mike Weaver in a WBC title defense and Tim Witherspoon in a WBC title defense. Bone Crusher Smith. Bone Crusher also won the WBA title. He lost it in the first round. Not the first round of the fight, but the first round of the tournament against Tyson. So in the Larry Holmes era / start of Mike Tyson era, he had already defended his world titles against 3 people who held that WBA strap at some time or the other. They just couldn't keep hold of it long enough. And he's lineal champion as well because he beat Ali when Ali came back, because Ali never lost the belt in the ring. Nobody in the media, if Gareth knows what he's talking about, was asking why Holmes is not undisputed champion. The fact he was lineal champion and was only 2 straps at the time, there was no real big pull for the fight because nobody who held the WBA title could make themselves a viable candidate for the unification. There was supposed to be a fight between him and Jerry Courtzia when Courtzia had the title, but the finances went up in smoke and the fight never materialized. Right? And guess what? Cortsia lost the title in his first defense. They used to say that WBA title was cursed. Holmes held that WBC belt from 1978 till 1983. He wasn't happy with the money that was on offer for a mandatory against Greg Page, and the IBF came into play, and he held the IBF until 1985, where he lost to Michael Spinks. So when you're saying Holmes didn't fight people, who are these people he didn't fight? Who? Greg Page? The public were saying, oh, we need the Greg Page fight? No, they wasn't. Listen, I know this era like the back of my hand. I interviewed Pinklon Thomas, and when the IBF came into the heavyweight division and they gave Holmes the belt, he wasn't originally supposed to get the belt. Pinklon was waiting for a shot at that WBC title as well that Holmes held, that he vacated for the IBF. Pinklon Thomas was actually supposed to fight Larry Holmes for the IBF title, but they ended up giving Larry the belt. And I got that testimony from Pinklon Thomas. And there was a little buzz for a Pinklon Thomas Larry Holmes unification. There was. What did Pinklon go and do? WBC belt. He won that with a great jabbing display against Tim Witherspoon. Knocked out Mike Weaver. He laboured a bit in that fight, but he landed that right hand and knocked him out. And he was one of my favourite fighters at that time, Pinklon Thomas. And then he inexplicably started off very well against Trevor Berbick and then faded down the stretch and lost his belt. It was a huge upset. And just like many champions in that period of the heavyweight division, they just couldn't get their shit together. Berbick crashed in round 2 in his first defense of that WBC title in the first round of the unification to Mike Tyson, who eventually won the tournament. So don't tell me Holmes didn't fight nobody unless you know what you're talking about. And the reason I address it so meticulously is because it's for my records as well, these videos. So throughout his career, Ken Norton, Mike Weaver, Muhammad Ali, Trevor Berbick, Leon Spinks, Tim Witherspoon, Bone Crusher, Ray Mercer are all world title belt holders, no interim shit, that Larry Holmes beat during his career. 8 world champions throughout his career. And let's remember, like, he's not moving up and down weights or anything like that. He's a career heavyweight. And through his career, he beat 8 men who held versions of world titles. So all this, he never fought no one. It doesn't wash here. And if we want to talk about the resume, win, lose or draw, it's just on another level. You're talking about Roy Williams. I know you ain't heard of him, but you know, you're here to be schooled. Ernie Shavers twice, Ken Norton, Muhammad Ali, Spinks, Berbick, Weaver, Witherspoon, Jerry Cooney, Carl the Truth Williams, Mike Tyson, Michael Spinks, Leon Spinks, Ray Mercer, Evander Holyfield, Oliver McCall. Yo, dude, let me tell you what fights the public really wanted. They wanted Mike Spinks versus Mike Tyson. That's the fight they wanted, to clear it all up. Mike had all 3 straps. They wanted Spinks versus Tyson because Spinks never lost his belt in the ring, so he was still viewed as lineal champion. And in 1988, we got our wish and we got that fight. And Mike Spinks crashed in 1 round to Mike Tyson. And just like there was a demand for Tyson versus Spinks, there's a demand for Tyson Fury, who his old man named Luke after, named him after Mike Tyson. There is a huge demand for Tyson Fury to fight Alexander Usyk. Tyson Fury would make a fortune fighting Usyk, right? And it will impact way better on his legacy than an NGANNOU fight. Don't tell me about no game changer and how much money they're going to make. Nonsense. Why do you keep letting Frank Warren skate like this? Why do you give him a platform to breathe?
If that is the game changer, it does create a crossover with
It's
MMA fans and boxing fans like Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather.
Then they compared Tyson Fury fighting NGANNOU to Floyd Mayweather fighting Conor McGregor. Wasn't Floyd already 49-0 and already conquered how much weight classes? 4 or 5 weight classes? In Floyd's view, he done all what he had to do in boxing when he took that fight. Has Tyson Fury done all he's had to do? No. Why do you people like comparing this guy to Muhammad Ali and Floyd Mayweather? It's an insult. And you need to stop doing it. You know, you're trying to quote boxing history, Gareth Davies, like you know shit. To let Frank Warren off the hook. Putting Larry Holmes' name in it. Larry Holmes had 26 world title fights in his whole career. He won 2 world titles and made 20 successful title defenses. And you're telling me about people he didn't fight. The finishing sequence for Boots Ennis. Left hook, right hook, left hook. And before that, he was throwing some beautiful jabs on the move. Villa managed to back him up in the 5th and 6th, and he really tried to put the pressure on in the 6th. And he did land some good shots, but Boots held up sturdy, as you're supposed to as a prize fighter. His left hook to the body was absolutely beautiful, man. And like, you know, Philly have always produced some great fighters, and this guy here has the potential to be in that great lineage. Larry Holmes, he's a Philly fighter. Is Pennsylvania right in Philly, or is Philly? It's Philly. He's a Philly fighter. Don't talk about Larry Holmes, man, unless you've done the research. Radio personalities. But back to Boots. It was great to see him back in action, and it always is, to be honest. You know, like the inactivity for someone like Boots is criminal. Absolutely criminal. Villa is a very good fighter. Very, very... Listen, he didn't just beat Rashidi by chance. No, he beat Rashidi because he can fight. And for those out there thinking that you can just box Villa from range and get a W, no. You have to box Villa and you have to fight him inside, work his body, and break him. It's that showmanship, isn't it? You know, the Philly legendary for their gym wars, the Blue Horizon, the Spectrum, the Philly circuit. Yeah. And yeah, you've got to be able to box. But you've got to look for the knockout as well. I like that philosophy. I do like that philosophy. And he got it. We saw the switch hitting, southpaw, orthodox, almost in a seamless manner. Like, unless you're really focused on the action, sometimes it's hard to tell that he switched because you don't kind of see an undeveloped jab from the southpaw stance or an undeveloped punch from the orthodox stance. He can maintain both shapes extremely well. Stanionis and Boots. Boots can be ready to take that fight by November, December. Stanionis probably needs to have a warm-up, but that's the fight right now. Outside Crawford and Spence, they've got their shit to attend to soon. Stanionis and Boots. Although Boots and his people, they may opt for a more quieter journey to occupy their time before they're knocking at the door for the winner of Spence and Crawford. But yo, very good performance. 10th round finish. First man to stop this guy. A lot of people said Rashidi Ellis actually beat Villa. No, he didn't. Villa got him. He ground him down and took his unbeaten record. But against Boots, he was outclassed. And that doesn't take away from Villa's contribution, because if Boots wasn't on his game and if he wasn't in shape, he would have lost that fight. He pressed the action. He kept coming forward after taking a whole load of power punches, getting whacked to the body, to the head, getting outboxed, and he kept coming forward. Boots, is he the guy who dethrones the winner of Spence and Crawford and then goes on to move up to 154 and become a Hall of Famer? He has the tools. He has the gifts. On a Virgil Ortiz, had a look at that. Or if you watched Floyd Schofield headlining against Haskell Rhodes. I know him as Liddell Rhodes. I've got an interview with him. It was a few years back. Schofield outpointing him over 10, headlining that Golden Boy card. Jojo Diaz was on there as well. It went a little under the radar after the collapse of Stanionis versus Ortiz. Couldn't have been easy for Virgil Ortiz, having to watch either the Golden Boy card or Boots Ennis. Couldn't have been easy. Very frustrating period for him. You know, boxing is his passion, and if that's his passion, hopefully he can get back in the ring, but he's got to be in good health. He's got to be in good shape. It can't be nothing less. You know, we can't have boxers going in there with their health and safety compromised. We can't have that. Got to try and cut back on that. Funny world, man. Yeah, I interviewed Liddell Rhodes when he was undefeated, and he lost his unbeaten record to Sergei Lipinets. And obviously, one of Boots' come-up fights that put him on a radar was against Lipinets, and he stopped him. Was he the first to stop Lipinets? I believe he was. Hey, this sport ain't easy though, man. Roman Villa was tough, man. He was sent to hospital with a fractured nose after taking heavy punishment from Boots. And a lot of people are saying it could have been stopped earlier. This is boxing, bruh. This is boxing. These guys don't want to go out there and get stopped. Do you think they just want to get stopped like that? No. They want to push it to the limit. This guy went in there with 26 wins, 24 inside the distance, and 1 loss. Going into that fight, he's 30 years of age, and the season campaign, he was tough as Boots. Pardon the pun. He took his licks. Fractured nose, yeah. It's not easy. I don't think the fight was stopped too early. I don't think it was stopped too early. This guy was trying to turn it round. Yes, Boots was in charge, but he's trying to turn it round like a true professional. And if that fight hasn't taken too much out of him, he'll be a good test for a lot of 147-pounders. Hey, Manuel Gallegos, man, like, hey, that was a good pressure fight. Like, I don't know what a 6'3" guy is doing trying to fight like Joe Frazier, but I like the way he was coming out of the crouch and firing back at Diego Pacheco. It was a good fight, man. It was a good fight. It was a good test for Diego Pacheco, which he passed with flying colours. He boxed very well against the aggression, took the attack down to the body and finished it in the 4th. I don't think Eddie or Diego's team want to rush him, but, you know, he's 22. But if he keeps progressing like this, it's going to be hard not to. Gallegos was a power puncher, undefeated, very aggressive, very strong, and he made light work of him. And Diego wants to fight everybody, so it's going to be a job holding him back, because if he keeps progressing like this, it will be senseless matching him up with also-rans, to be honest. So, another good outing for Diego Pacheco, you know, 6'4", 79-inch reach. Still got a lot to learn, you know, like, he probably could have tied up a little more when he had his back to the ropes at times, but he was catching on as the fight went on, making his exit from off the ropes to his left away from that left hook, which I think is quite a dangerous punch from Gallegos, actually, right? And, 2 big power hitters in there. It was a good fight to watch. It was a good fight. Pacheco looks like a nice kid, but he's got a mean streak in there. He's got a mean streak. When he has you hurt, he knows what to do. He knows how to finish. A lot of people want to see the Berlanga fight, but I think Eddie and both parties involved may not see the sense of making that fight right now. But for the fans, yo, we want it. We want it. We want it now. We want everything all the time with boxing fans.
But I want it now!